The food is not the issue. The issue is the other things that are making you fixate on the food. Perfection can't exist in this health journey because that's just setting you up to swing on that pendulum of extremes, and that's not where sustainability lives. The narrative of like, you just need more willpower, you need more discipline, it's self-blaming language that keeps people stuck. If we can step away from that narrative and you can hit that place of being relaxed and having freedom around food and fitness, I immediately want to know exactly what you've done in the past, what your relationship with food was, what habits have those created, and do they actually serve you, or are they causing you to sabotage?
All right, a little introduction before we get into today's episode. So I run these shows ad-free. We will never take on sponsors because everything is self-funded through our Fit Vegan coaching program. So if you enjoy these shows, the best way to support is obviously to subscribe to the channel. But also, if you know anyone over the age of 50 that is looking to improve their body composition, combat sarcopenia, combat osteoporosis, get healthier on a whole food, plant-based lifestyle, to simply send them our way at fitvegancoaching.com, because we are the best in the world in helping people over 50 transform. Over 1,000 transformation in 20 different countries. So simply send them our way. In addition to that, a percentage of our profit monthly goes towards supporting cancer patients with their treatments and bills and whatever they may need to support themselves and their family. So you're also supporting additional people outside of the work that we'd be doing in the program. That is all I have for you today, so enjoy the episode. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I'm joined by our Fit Vegan coach, Cass. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while since we recorded. I think it was like your initial episode when you joined as on the team.
Yeah, I know. I haven't been in front of the mic and the camera in a hot minute, but it feels good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, we're like a few months away of you being with us for a year.
I know. That's crazy, actually, to think about. It feels
This
like
year
it's
flew
been like
by.
weeks.
Yeah, this year flew by. It's been a pretty busy year.
Yeah.
So for the people listening, today we're going to be talking about 5 tips/strategies to help people improve their relationship with food, because I know we have a deep passion for that. But before we dive into those 5 tips, do you mind people giving a little background, as to who you are besides being a Fit Vegan coach?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I've been a coach for, I guess, like 9 months or so now, which is pretty crazy. Happy to be here. So exciting to be amongst you guys. Like, I feel like it's just been super comfortable, and I love the clients. I love you guys. So it's just been great. But my background is I've been a personal trainer for over a decade, about 12 years now. Going to be 31. So I guess, 12 years. And yeah, I mean, I have been vegan for 15 years, so I've only ever really known the vegan thing, which is why I love this company so much. But yeah, my background is just about optimization, wellness. Food relationship is my jam. And I just believe that everyone, I think I have gone back and forth, definitely, and we'll probably get more into this, but about kind of the narrative around food relationship, and does it have a place, like a neutral place within fitness and nutrition if we're trying to reach goals. And I've always believed that it does, and it can be the overarching theme, and you can hit that place of being relaxed and having freedom around food and fitness, and still get all the changes in body recomp and physical aesthetic goals that you want to achieve, along with all your health goals too. But I believe they can be, they can exist in the same space. So that's my whole passion. That's what I like to bring to my clients. And yeah, just showing them that they can have the best of both worlds, have their cake, eat it too, all that good stuff. But yeah, so I'm happy about the topic today because I could talk forever about it. So hope you're buckled in and ready for that.
I'm ready. That's why I love podcasting. We get to talk for a long time. No, I see you get a lot of praise from the clients that you coach with Fit Vegan about that, how you help them improve their relationship with food, how they've been able to, keep a jar of peanut butter in their house and not feel like they're going to devour it all in one go. And if I remember correctly, wasn't it Planet of the Apes that got you to go vegan?
Yeah. Yeah, it pulled on the heartstrings. Okay, it was the entrance into me doing a deep dive on all of the. I guess I'm full heartedly an ethical vegan, and then all the health stuff came later. But yeah, that was definitely my introduction at 15 years old was Planet of the Apes. But
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
So for the people that haven't listened to that episode, you can go and check it out on the YouTube channel or on the audio. It came out in like just end of last year. So be able to listen to the full story of how she transitioned. Um, so yeah, let's get to talk about relationship with food because I think that as you've seen when we coach clients, fitness is not really the issue. Maybe there's a bit of a lack of knowledge or fear of getting injured. And just got to figure out, how to do it properly when we build them the plan. But the hardest part is how do we get people to stay consistent with food while having a healthy relationship with food to be able for them to attain the goal that they came in for.
Mm.
So I told Cass before we started recording, I was like, hey, come with your 5 best tips. So Cass, you want to start off with tip number one?
Yeah, absolutely. So my tips aren't like as blanket statement. I think the way that I kind of create tips, I do it in the flow in which I would work with a client. And one of the big first things I usually start with is one, hearing history, hearing story. I immediately want to know exactly what you've done in the past, what your relationship with food was, even as far back, which can kind of like take people off guard, as far back as like, what's your first memory of food, of it being like a conscious experience of like, what did that feel? What emotions came up? Because I think it can really give us a lot of information of when your first biases and kind of belief systems were solidified and how much of that you've carried into your current lifestyle, your current food habits. So it helps me just understand the client better, but it also lets me know where we need to start as far as unpacking or letting go of things that may not serve us now that might have been causing them to trip up in even just their most recent health journeys because it's
Yeah.
causing some certain behaviors that are causing them to like start, stop, or really think in black and white. So my first one would be to really sit down and ask yourself those questions. What is your relationship with food? Have you ever even heard that term before? How would you define it? And what do you think impacts it? What influences, what systems of influence are determining how you think about yourself and about the foods you eat? And what habits have those created? And do they actually serve you, or are they causing you to sabotage, hold you back, or stumble a lot in your current fitness and health journey?
What would be examples of some of those habit that would lead people to have just as they kind of in a ballpark idea of like to have a bad relationship with food and to have a healthy relationship with food?
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the individual and how back it tracks or how far back it tracks, sorry. I think it can be as heavy as you were introduced to dieting at a very young age, maybe by a
Yeah.
parent or somebody that you viewed as like influential. So it can be that you've maybe viewed your body as something that it needs to be a product to like achieve value or achieve validation, and that's kind of how you always saw.
Worthiness.
Exactly, like excuse me, maybe searching that from somebody that you really looked up to that set those things in motion at a young age. It could be as small as just maybe you hit your adult years and you started doing a lot of fad diets and you're really used to the trend of extreme restriction. Anytime you're feeling like you're out of control around food, you counteract that by going into that heavy restriction, maybe working out a ton and really restricting your eating. And that's just the pattern that you're used to. That's just what you believe is what you're meant to do because of what you've just kind of absorbed through media or marketing around you. So that's
Hmm.
kind of your relationship with health, is just to go to these extremes. And you just need the discipline, you need the willpower in order to get the outcome that you want. And that's the only thing you know to be true, which obviously isn't true. We know that. But it's hard
Yeah.
when you have those belief systems, you really truly think that they are true until you're proved otherwise.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that because, one of the reasons I called the program Fit Vegan Blueprint is because for that exact reason, when people have a history of bad relationship with food or kind of turning to fad diets, if ever they have a bad month or a bad week and they put on weight or life happens to them, whatever the blueprint in their head that they have is what they're going to revert to. So if it's fad diet, severe calorie restriction, severe exercising, that's all they know. They're just going to go back to that blueprint. And what we're doing with the clients is rewiring and rebuilding a new blueprint so that if ever in the future life happens to them and they get out of shape, then they have something healthier to follow versus kind of revert back to the old ways. That's the
Yeah.
reason I put blueprint 5.5 years ago, was for that reason.
Mhm.
So tip number one is basically some type of like a pattern recognition so that I can identify if there is something to fix, and if there is, what could be affecting it basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much easier to figure out what is going to create change this time around if we understand what has kept you from success previously. And a lot of the time, it goes further than just what's on your plate and how you move your body. There are actual habit loops that are stopping you from sustainably making change because of certain things that you've grown up with or certain belief systems that you have about food.
So there's, you mentioned earlier, so basically reverting to fad diets, over exercising, really restricting your calorie as a pattern, would it also be, just for the people listening, if there's a food that you feel you can't have in the house because if it's in there you can't control yourself and you feel like you're going to eat the whole thing, or if there's a food that you've demonized, would those fall under some of the unhealthier patterns?
Absolutely. Yeah. Restriction can look a lot of different ways. We think restriction is just slash your calories in half or do something extreme. Restriction can be mental restriction, just as you mentioned. It can be cutting out whole food groups. It can be using that language that really places foods in a binary. These are acceptable foods and these are unacceptable foods. And we are creating these kind of boundaries around ourselves of what's safe versus what's not. And that kind of still leads into this binge restrict of like go crazy on the good foods, but stay away from the bad foods. But all foods at the end of the day can be overate, they can be binged on, they can be, depending on what kind of weight we put on these foods, all of these foods can
Hmm.
have that effect. And it's not so much the food itself. So yeah, there's lots of forms and different types of restriction that can be there. And sometimes it is even just saying like that food's not healthy. And it's like, well, who taught you that? Who taught you that this thing was bad, this thing was good? Did you believe that, or was that a narrative you heard and that has been reinforced maybe even decades ago, that has still just clung with you, that has now created these parameters in your mind of where you can be safely and where you can't venture off to, that's still restricting you in lots of different categories?
Yeah. So there's something I want to bring up, but I'm gonna keep it for the end, just in case it addresses some of your four other points. But but I definitely want to cover it at the end. So what would be tip strategy number two for people to improve their relationship?
Okay, well, usually from here, once we kind of discover what we're dealing with, I like to kind of work through what I've kind of coined as like the three pillar model. So we have physical hunger, we have mental hunger, and then emotional hunger. When people are dealing with any kind of food issue, and probably the most common one is overeating or people not knowing, what is proper portion for them, not understanding their own hunger and fullness cues, and just feeling maybe out of control around food. So they jump immediately to words like willpower, discipline, words that really just kind of like demonize their own behavior. Once again, going back to that morality of like a certain way you eat determines if you're a good person or a bad person. And with that, we're missing a lot, right? We're jumping straight to that emotional category, which is very hard to decipher if your body is hungry, starving, doing all these things, like missing things, missing key blocks. So, working through the categories, starting at physical hunger, we go through the checklist, right? What is your food? What does your eating actually look like? What does your plate look like? What foods do you gravitate towards? What does balance look like to you? Going through that, going through their meals, making sure macros are balanced, making sure their intake is actually adequate. They're not severely under eating from tons of dieting, right? Just taking a look at what eating looks like to them. Once we kind of move through there, now we're kind of entering that area of, that mental restriction people put on themselves. So getting more into that, like what is good food versus bad food, and mental satiation. So physical hunger, Translates, your stomach's growling, you eat food, you're full, you walk away. Mental hunger can come through as cravings or food thoughts, really obsessive kind of like thoughts about food, maybe like you said, in the pantry, being around food, being at social events, thinking about food. So words like cravings, buzzwords of like, these are bad things, you shouldn't have these things, they can be a way of your body secondarily translating, I'm missing something. So
Mm.
we kind of move to the mental hunger place of, are you actually satiating more elements than just the building blocks? Are we actually, eating things that fill us and satisfy us? And food is more than just, I believe food is more than just fuel. It has a lot of different purposes, and we have a much deeper relationship with it than we realize, where food can be nostalgic, it can be cultural, it can be, it can obviously be attached to certain emotions. So are we actually recognizing, like there are flavors, there are textures, there are things that we actually do enjoy that maybe we decided weren't good for us, that we've taken away? How can we re-bring that back in so that we feel like we're actually checking out these boxes? And food, something we look forward to again, right? Instead of
Yeah.
just being this thing that we either restrict to lose weight or we bring on to build muscle or whatever it may be. So once those two things are covered, then that kind of leaves the emotional category that is so much easier to navigate. Once your body is essentially fed and happy, we can now look at like, okay, what other habit loops maybe have formed around food that are leading you to these other things, but how much of it has also fallen away now that you're eating properly and honoring these cues that you were ignoring before, which is a big kind of shock to a lot of people when they start to notice that these cravings fall away when
Yeah.
they're actually able to, bring these things back in and find a way that works for them. So
So would the emotional eating part be like if you're having a stressful day at work or you had some bad news, that would fall into that category? But if you're well fed and you address the other components, then it wouldn't be as potentially as impactful as
yeah,
it would be if you didn't take care of the two other.
exactly. It's much easier to come home stressed out and go absolutely crazy in your fridge if you've skipped lunch and you had, something small for breakfast. Like you're going to be
Yeah.
ravenous, and that biological drive towards food is going to be amplified by those emotions, and you're going to feel incredibly out of control. And that's not even in your control. That is literally driven. Like you're not in the driver's seat at that point. But if
Yeah.
those things are checked off, you come into it, yeah, that emotion is still loud. Maybe there still is a habit loop of like you're used to reaching for something at a certain time when that emotion's heightened. We can now analyze that and be like, okay, like this is something we can strip down and actually take a look at finding solutions for now that all that other noise is gone or quieted down.
Yeah. I think having a proper structured meal plan would make a big a difference, to people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I don't know if I don't know if you have that, but I'll admit it. I've had my times where I've skipped a meal and you come home and it's like stressful and you're like, damn, I'm gonna eat everything in this fridge and I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It is a very hard thing to control. You could be a very disciplined person, but sometimes it just takes over you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. So what would be tip number three?
Tip number 3 and tip number 4 are a little bit related, but tip number 3 kind of comes out as we're navigating tip 1 and 2, as I'm working through that with clients, we start to take a look at what is your list? What does your list look like of foods that you're scared of? I've
Hmm.
mentioned this before. I think I mentioned it in the last time we did a podcast together of like this list varies so much. I've never had two lists be the same. It's very easy to be like, oh, it's probably cookies and cake and all. And like usually no, it's usually very specific. Peanut butter is probably one of more of the common ones because that one seems to freak
Yeah.
people out a lot. But for the most part, it's very random. It's all over the place. And it's a food that it's like, I can't have it in the house. If it's there, I obsess about it. And all I want is to eat it. So we take a look at this list as we're working through everything, as we're introducing things. And I do bring up, what would it feel like if we brought that food in and it was just there? And it would immediately be like, I can't, I'll eat all of it. Like I won't be able to control myself. Once again, if we're not checking off the boxes from the physical and mental satiation, then you're going to feel, of course, completely out of control around these foods. And if you're used to never checking off those boxes or skipping meals or not balancing out your meals, then that sense of no control around that food are amplified. and they're very validated. Like, I believe you when you say that you're scared and feel out of control around that food, of course, because your body's literally driving you towards anything. It just wants food. So checking off those boxes, waiting until we've solidified that a little bit, we reintroduce kind of this list and we take a look at it. We're like, okay, so what does the emotion pop up with this food now? And it's still some fear, but it's just because that's wired to be the response still. But maybe a little bit more of like, okay, I think I could try. So the main kind of tip here is that we often blame food or blame a food. And our first reaction is that restriction reaction of like, just cut the whole food out. It's abstinence, it's take it away. I don't believe abstinence works when it comes to food, just because of the fact that we need food to survive. You also don't live in a perfect world where you'll never see peanut butter again in your entire life. Like, it'll be around. It'll be around.
For sure.
So,
especially if you have a husband or kids or whatever. Yeah.
Like, it's going to be there. And it doesn't also help, with that obsession if you're constantly trying to surveillance everything to make sure it's not in your environment. That doesn't help with the fixation. So it's about recognizing that the food is not the issue. And I think it's easy to place blame on the food when it's never usually the food. The food is not the issue. That the issue is the other things that are making you fixate on the food. So a lot of my tips come back to a lot of self-reflection, which probably frustrates so many of my clients because I make them do the hard work there. But it's truly so important because
it's like, just give me the answer, Cass.
I know. They're like, just tell me what to do. And I'm like, well, it's more convoluted than that, but in a good way, in a fun way. This is why I find it to be like the most interesting. I just love it. I could go off about it forever, but the just food psychology, really, because of how intertwined these things are, it feels like it's either completely concrete science or it's all just emotional reaction. And it's like, no, these things are very intertwined. Your relationship with food is very deep and personal. And unpacking these things and pulling the blame away from the food, because if the food is the issue, then that immediate solution is just take it away. And we like that idea that there's an immediate solution, right? But that's not the case. I would say 99.9% of the time, it's not the food. So it's about reflecting, taking a look at history, looking at habits, and recognizing that if it seems simple, the answer seems simple, it's probably too good to be true when it comes to our food relationship. And not to be scared of that, not to be scared, because the more we unpack and the more we change, like, this won't happen again. We fix it now and it's fixed for life, right? So like, the hard work is hard now, but it doesn't stay hard. And it becomes something where you actually do, like when people say like, I'll never get to a point where I can walk into an event and see all this food, you can. And that's what all of these steps get you towards. And that reality will be true. But we do need to do all this kind of like itty gritty, gross, scary work first in order to get you there. That might be, more than people sign up for. But I can't help it, okay? I like to get to the root of the problem.
Well, and that's why we like having you as a coach, because that's actually what makes the difference, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's not about, the meal plan's not going to solve anything. Like, yeah, can you shut down your brain and your emotions for a short period of time and follow a plan? Like, a lot of people can for a while, but eventually social life creeps in. You have to travel, you have to go out into the world. You can't be in this perfect cocoon of environment that you've tailored to make it easy for you to be able to like eat healthy, make the right decisions, and exercise.
Yeah.
You need to be able to navigate life. And, everything that you're sharing is effort. It requires action and effort and thinking, just like same thing with exercise, just like the same thing with, sticking to your nutrition to improve your body composition, just like improving your relationship with your partner, just like your career, just like everything else in life. It requires effort and thinking. There's no do this one thing and it will solve all of your problems.
Yeah.
But I'll share this, and I'm sure you have your own stories as well, but from someone that used to have a really big binge problem with food, like for me to eat one cookie was a wild concept. Like, me eat one cookie, like I would buy, as before I was vegan, but I buy like the pack at Costco and I would eat the whole thing, or buy a box of donut and I eat the whole thing. But to now be able to just eat one cookie and be like, yeah, I'm good, even though it's sugar and it's addicting and all of those things, I can have one and be like, cool, I'm all right. Like I'll be fine. Because yeah, again, if it's not on a pedestal, then it's like, yeah, cool, it was a cookie. Big
Hmm.
deal. I ate it. I feel I got the thing that I want to, and I can move on now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that, and one of the quotes that I kind of use often when, because like I said, a lot of this is driven in fear, which means that a lot of people look for safety when it comes to
Yeah.
food. So with that, the idea of abstaining or completely taking something off the table feels very comforting because the trigger essentially is gone. And that feels like, okay, I'm comfortable. It's not scaring me anymore. But I use the analogy of like everyone can hold their breath, but the longer you hold their breath, the more anxious you are to breathe. And we can only do it for a short amount of time before we're gulping in air at an excessive rate because of the fact we held our breath for so long. So yeah, I believe you can do it. That does not mean it's a long-term solution and that it's actually benefiting you and getting you to a place where you get to have all of the goals you achieve and keep them because you've solved all these underlying issues, which is my main goal for all my clients. I love the fact that like we can get you there and I want to get you there, but I care about keeping you there. That's my main
Yeah.
piece.
That's what actually makes a difference. That's the real results at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So just to make sure I got this clear, step 3 is basically make a list of some of these foods, and then step 4 is slowly to implement them back in.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that one's the
perfect.
scary part. That's the one that people are going to come with their pitchforks and be like, "Yeah, that one, absolutely not." But like I said, that's why it's always in a controlled manner at the client's pace, because
Yeah.
it's like everybody is at a different stage. And some people that's easily doable within, a certain time frame. Other people, they need to just like be more comfortable with it before it comes back in. And that's fine too, because all of this is also heavy lifting happening in the background to guarantee sustainability, but we're still working on the other goals in the forefront, so nothing's being interrupted. It's just the backwards or the background work that's making sure it sticks.
Yeah. And yeah, I can see it also would be scary for people to be like, hey, and if it's like, I'm doing so great, I haven't had it in a long time. Like, why do I need to reintroduce it? We need to solve the issue.
Yeah.
Um, Perfect. So what would be tip number 5 or strategy number 5?
So the last one is that, so just as I was saying, they were kind of related, how the food is not the issue. The main thing that I kind of walk clients through is that how you react to the thing that you deem the bad thing matters way more than doing the bad thing. So you can fill in the blank with that, whether it's eating a food you deem a bad food or skipping a workout or anything. You can fill it in with whatever you deem to be the scary thing that throws you off track or whatever it may be. That thing doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. If you zoom out, you probably won't even remember it happening. But how you react to it, that's where we start to get into habit loops and actually, recreating new habits and rewiring how you respond. So the emotions that pop up, how we're able to work our way through, find neutrality post event in order for it to no longer hold that power and keep us in that cycle of it constantly happening over and over again. So whether that's starting and stopping your fitness journey or your nutrition journey, or if it's just thinking really black and white of like there's one way to do it and it has to be perfect, and if it's not that, then I've completely failed. Pulling you right back from that. So if you go and you eat something that you're like, okay, I shouldn't have this, and you eat a bunch, you immediately feel guilt, you immediately feel shame. Your immediate reaction is, I want to feel better because right now I feel like crap. I'm going to go and be perfect, or I'm going to go and do a bunch extra, way over what my coach told me to do, and run a million miles or whatever it may be, or I'm going to restrict and just way restrict more than I should. Back to those similar patterns that may have shown you results before, but there's a reason they didn't work. There's a reason that we see one counteract with the other because both of them are extremes and there's no middle ground. So how you react to that, in fact, I almost want it to happen, which is another scary thing, but I almost want you to keep messing up and keep tripping up and keep making mistakes, because that helps me understand exactly how you react, exactly how we're going to form a plan to rewire that habit loop that happens afterwards, so that when it happens, it doesn't feel like the end of the world and it doesn't cause a bunch of ripple effects where it continues to happen in a short amount of time. So that can look a million different ways depending on the person, but that's going to be the make or break to get you out of that black and white binary cycle that's keeping you sabotaging yourself. And it's the reason that you've never seen long-term results.
Yeah. So I love that you said that because it might be a controversial take to a lot of people listening, but as a coach, I and we want people to trip and fall because those are your opportunities for one, for you to learn how to not trip and fall the next time, which you probably will, but then you won't trip and fall as hard as the first time. And then it will be as hard the third time and the fourth time and the fifth time.
Yeah.
And it allows you to better understand how to coach the client as well. Like, I don't want clients that are going to be perfect the whole, because first of all, if they were perfect, they wouldn't be in the program. So there's obviously, if they're in the program, there's something that they need to address. So then those trip and falling opportunities are not failures, they're just opportunities to learn and to learn how to be better coach. Much better to trip and fall with a coach in a safe environment than it is when you're on your own to the real world after a streak of, quote unquote perfection. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had clients throughout the years is like, for the last 60 days, I've not missed, in the past like 6 months, I've not missed one workout. I'm like, oh my God, when they do miss one, they're going to beat themselves up
I
so
can just
much.
see the kettle boiling. I know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
immediately in my head, I'm like, oh. Yeah,
Like,
and it's so true.
just skip one at one point just so you can get it out the way out of your system, because the pressure just build and you're like, oh my God, I broke a 6-month streak, I'm a failure, it's going to take me so long to rebuild it. We're not after a streak. That's not what we're after. Anyways, we're about consistency.
Yeah. And I've been in that position where I've actually told a client to mess up on purpose. And they're just like looking at me like I'm an alien. And I'm like, I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens so that I'm here to actually, look over it and we can walk through it together on the other side, instead of you, once again, holding your breath for as long as you can, only to realize you really need to take a breath and you're by yourself with it, just like you mentioned. So sometimes it's, depending on how far along they are, it's like, let's put you through a little simulation here of what that looks like. And I also find it's interesting because I think a lot of people will put off starting until things feel perfect because they want it to go as well as possible or feel like they're making the most of their time. And so they'll be like, I want to do it when I have no events or I'm not going on any vacations or any of that. And I say, like, fill your schedule with events, vacations, with all the things that are going to trip you up, because so much more of that mimics real life. And that's so much more that we can figure out personality wise on your part, but also just strategy wise on my part, how we're going to allow you to be able to actually navigate these situations that are 100% going to come up again in a situation that is, where I'm overseeing it, I'm watching it, and we're doing it together, where it's like very much, you've got someone to lean back on or fall back on. But I think people definitely get in that mindset of perfection, and perfection can't exist in this realm, in this health journey, because that's just setting you up to swing on that pendulum of extremes. And that's not where sustainability lives. It lives right in the middle.
Yeah. No, hey, we're both super fit. I've never been perfect. I've been consistent, but I've never been perfect.
Me either.
It's funny because so many people come into the program and they think it's about working out and the meal plan. But the members that are in the program listening to this are like, oh yeah, it's about a lot more than just like a workout program and a meal plan. But the people that are not in the program listening to this are like, oh, they think it's all about the workout and the meal plan. There's nothing to do with it. Like, we'll build it for you, but coaching is not about that. It's about what happens outside of that.
Easy part. Easy.
Yeah.
That's the simple part.
So to recap, see if I remember correctly. So step 1 is to basically self-awareness, recognize the patterns, right? And then tip 2 was to make sure that you have, physical hunger satisfied, and then it was mental, and then the emotional won't be as harsh to navigate with. 3 was to make a list of some of those foods that are taboo potentially that you've put on a pedestal. Step 4 was to slowly reintroduce them. And then tip 5 was, it's not about messing up, it's about how you deal with messing up.
Yeah, good job. Good memory.
Hey, that's post-concussions.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Then a lot of podcasts. I keep mental notes. So I'll bring up the point that I wanted to share earlier when we were
Sure.
at point two. So when people are listening to the podcast, they're not really in the fit vegan world. They don't necessarily understand some of the language that we use when it comes to improving relationship with food. When
Hmm.
we talk about good or bad or healthy and unhealthy, a lot of people will go to, well, eating processed food is not good for you. I know that that's not good for you, but, and I'll let you elaborate on that. But I think what people are missing is it for longevity and quality of life? Is it the best? No, we agree on that. But it's about learning to not demonize that food so that you don't binge on it more than you need to because you've worked on your relationship with food. So therefore, you don't crave that thing that will cause those unhealthy side effects in long term. Am I
Yeah.
accurate on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I talk about health being kind of a word that can be weaponized a little bit because sometimes too much, we're taking in too much and we're trying to apply everything at once. And we get this very narrow idea of what is healthy. When my idea of, yes, okay, maybe some of those foods, if we overeat on them, then yes, maybe there's some implications there. But what's more healthy? Is it, occasionally having some of those foods? Or is it being so scared to eat them that you're patrolling your entire food existence and being so nervous about eating them and really narrowing your scope of what you're allowing yourself to intake, which is just amplifying food obsession, right? So healthy is much broader than I think we give it credit for, and it's just there's more to it. There's so much more to it of like flexibility and moderation, sustainability, like all of these words mean health to me because I think
Yeah.
health is being able to honor yourself, honor, what feels good, which might also be different from you to another person, right? You might have different ideas of what feels good to you. That's normal. So it's honoring yourself, honoring what feels good, but also allowing, for that flexibility, for that freedom around things that aren't driving obsession because it feels, it can become a prison almost a little bit if we obsess too much about it. And that's what we want to avoid. And obviously, we need to focus in when we're looking at goals when it comes to our health and fitness, but it can still be done under the scope of allowing that flexibility. So the transition to that intuitive space where we can navigate all curveballs and appreciate and understand all foods and whatever it may be can coexist, right? It can happen at the same
Yeah.
time and it doesn't have to be extreme restriction until we get somewhere and then we introduce that because that's when you're going to see that binge restrict cycle that becomes a very slippery slope.
Yeah. As we're talking about this, I can feel anxiety building up in the listeners. They're like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to take action on this because now I have a game plan to take action on this." But I just want to paint the picture for people, and I think that's what we're all working towards, right? You wake up in the morning, you're not groggy, you're energized, you feel good, you have a lot of natural energy, right? You you go to the gym, you have a fit healthy body. That's not a limitation to you being able to do exercise. You feel fantastic, you feel strong, you feel confident, you have stamina, you finish your workout, you're sweaty, you feel good. You go to grab food, you don't have to worry about the food. You know how to make the right decisions. You don't stress about eating a certain food or a specific or non-specific food. You go for a walk in the afternoon, you have energy, you don't have a slump in the afternoon. It's time for dinner. You just grab food that you make from scratch at your house. Again, no worry in the world. You have a little bite of a Oreo cookie while you're cooking your delicious whole food plant-based meal. You don't even think about the cookie that you ate it. And then you go to bed and you have a peaceful night of sleep. Like that's what we want. You to live a life where you're not stressed about, you're confident, you're not stressed about how you look, about how your body feels, you're not stressed about the food that you're eating. Imagine how much less stress that would be in people's life. Like that's what everyone's working towards. Like people hide it in different ways, like I want to lose 20 pounds or whatever. But if everyone was able to live that day and not have to have the stress of thinking of their body image, of their weight, of their energy, of their fitness, of the food, oh my God, the world would be a very different place.
Oh yeah. Like and that I know for a fact is the goal of everyone that walks through the door and it feels very foreign and I think a lot of people watching will hear all of this and think okay that sounds great but that's not me. I can't get there and I've heard that. I've heard that many 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 times and I'm telling you right now you can. It can. There's so many different strategies to get there, which is why history and your unique situation matters so much in all of this. But you can get there because so much of it, the narrative is to blame yourself. And I'm telling you that there is so much more happening under the surface that has nothing to do with any blame. Like, there's no blame on you. The minute you walk through the door, everything that you've dealt with as far as your food journey, none of it's your fault. We're going to unpack it together and find out exactly what's going on, what's creating these habits that are on the surface now, what's driving them, and all of that. Like, the narrative of like, you just need more willpower, you need more discipline, pisses me off, to be honest. But I think it's not. It's self-blaming language that keeps people stuck. And it's not, it has nothing to do with your individual food relationship. And if we can step away from that narrative, you'll find so much freedom through different solutions that have nothing to do with willpower or discipline.
Yeah. And statistically, I'm pretty confident that whoever's listening to this, that I can guarantee you that there's someone in the world that is in your position that is accomplishing the goals that you want. I think statistically, out of all the people in the world, it's probably happened at least once.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, you can do it, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, for sure. And that's why we do the Fit Vegan Success Story episodes with members. You know, we invite members to come on the show, and some of them's like, I don't feel my story is going to be powerful. Hey, there's thousands of people that download each episode now. So there's bound to be one person that's going to listen to it and be like, oh my God, I'm in the exact same position as this person. And I don't think it was possible, but then they did it. So it's like obviously a visual audio format to be able to inspire them. But you're right. As long as you're still alive, it's still doable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to do squats from my casket.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't be scared. If it feels scary, it's probably worth doing. So
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So Cass, you know, that was basically the question I wanted to ask you, because people do bring that up. It's like, well, it's not healthy for you. That's not, it's just, we're focusing more on the language and the impact that it has long-term versus,
right.
So yeah, Cass, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share to kind of, you know, wrap up this beautiful sequence to help people improve their relationship with food?
I think that health is very subjective. I think it depends on your own unique journey, what is important to you. I think health is freedom, it's sustainability, it's flexibility, it's moderation. And it comes down to finding what aligns with you without restricting you and removing all layers of restriction. So if you think you're the outlier, I like a good challenge is all I'm going to say, because I can promise you, I can probably peel those layers back and find exactly what's going on, because it feels, when we're sitting in that emotional space, it feels like there is no way out. And that's because there's so much self-blame and confusion on food relationships, especially if you have a bad one. But there's a lot of space underneath all that emotion for work to be done that puts you in a really good place to find exactly how to navigate your way out. And that's my specialty. So
Oh, beautiful. So I was going to say, for the people that are listening, if you're interested in improving your relationship with food, you do have the ability to work with Coach Cass. All you need to do is there's a link down below where you guys can book your free body recomposition consultation call with our team. And our new Fit Vegan Blueprint 3.0 program is also live at the time of this recording. And so you'll be able to have access to all the extra accountability and cool perks that come with it. And once you're on the call, just mention that you want to work with Coach Cass, and we'll be able to link you guys together so that you can start working together on your transformation. So Cass, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for taking the time to jump on the podcast. And then we'll do another one, not in 1 year, in a few months from now.
Yeah, please have me back sooner. This is fun.
I will. Awesome. All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye.